All right, hello and welcome to Between the Liars with Ryan, and we have a very special guest back again, Danielle.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Glad to be back. Lots of good stuff to talk about today.
We do have a lot. It's great to have you back. Today, I think something that Danielle said in our last segment really stuck out, and I think will frame a lot of where we go in our conversation, but it was the idea of the importance of person over party. And I think that's kind of a resounding theme throughout kind of your past. And I'm really excited to get into that. So today is all about getting to know one of our newest hosts, Danielle, military veteran, criminal justice reform advocate, future politician, fingers crossed from what she's been saying. So I'm gonna open the floor to you. Why don't you just start by talking a little bit about your past?
So my past is so big. I've touched on so many different aspects of Christianity, it goes substance abuse, prison, politics, name it, I've done it. There's just so much. But when it comes to like what we're speaking about today, person over party, that to me resounds deeply inside me. I was born in a small town in southern New Mexico, and to a very staunch Republican family that I love dearly. They gave me the my moral insight that I can follow and always find my way back home. They did that by, putting me into Christian school, and until sixth grade. I went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday night, every Sunday night, I hated it, let's be honest. But they made me do it. And I wasn't glad about that until recently, because it took a lot of years before I was able to discern what that feeling in here was, that where I was always questioning myself, or if I was to make a decision or I had already made a decision regarding whatever. And I kept questioning, like, is this right? Is this right? It took a long time for me to figure out what that was. And if it wasn't for my parents and my family, like showing me from a little age of where I'm supposed to be, my moral compass is supposed to be grounded at, I don't know where the hell it'd be. Sorry. But I mean, so institutionalized or dead. I'm one of the others.
Okay. So you had kind of a very grounded, it sounds like a very conservative upbringing. How did that change, or what did that look like once you got to college? You're out on your own. What were your beliefs, political beliefs, just general beliefs at that point?
So, truthfully, I lived a very hypocritical life. Like, I was full of hypocrisy. I was sleeping with women. I was dating women, LGBTQ, but then I was like preaching the word, and none of it meshed well with me. And I still struggle with that daily. But when I got to college and I was listening, I was in School of Social Work at ASU, and I started this on myself, like, why am I thinking the way that I think? Why am I reacting to certain things the way I'm reacting to them? Why do I believe this? Is it real? And I started to do a lot of digging and trying to figure out where all of that came from. And ton of that, the majority of it is conditioning from your young age, up. And regarding my political stance, I really didn't get heavily into politics until about 4 years ago. Okay. And but before then, it was always Republican. That's it. now after the School of Social Work, and that's one thing I have to give ASU is they help me see myself as a normal human being and to bring me back on the level of everybody else. I mean, I always was, but I always put myself up here, which
Mm.
why? I'm nobody. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just I had to ground myself, and I was very anti-gay, but not in my personal life, if that means
Mm.
anything. So
Interesting.
I was living in just turmoil on the inside, and I'm getting better about it. With things the way that they are. I've been alone for going on 2 years now, and I'm loving every minute of it for the
Mm.
most part. Life's hard. I get lonely, but I get through it.
Yeah. So it sounds more like it was even more recently than college that you were, instead of just, you mentioned like voting straight ticket Republican, just looking into the actual ideals of these candidates and starting to actually look into them instead of just, it's got an R, check. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So, what really, when I started working for the state representative here in Arizona, I started to see politicians for really what they really were because
Mm.
I know I got to hang out with them, I got to meet them. Um, any Arizona politician that you can think of, I probably shook their hands or sat at the dinner table with them or
Mm.
something of that matter. And there are the reason why I check now is because I know some of those people and I don't
Mhm.
want them in office. I don't care if they have
Mm.
an R next to their name or a D or whatever. So
Yeah.
I did the research regarding other, tickets, people on the other side of the ticket, in the middle of the ticket, and tell you what, the first year I put signs up in my yard, and I had Democrat signs and Republican signs, and I was just a walking ball of confusion. And so anybody that said anything to me about that, I was like, well, welcome to my world. Like now you can see what I live with on a daily basis. But guess
Yeah.
what? I'm okay with that today because I don't have to explain anything to anybody of why I
Mm.
do what I do. I'm not hurting anyone. So um, it's just that research, when I got the chance to possibly work with this Democrat who's running for an office here in Arizona. I don't want to say anything yet, but I've known her for quite a while, and
Mm.
one of her signs was in my yard a few years back, and I did the research on her, and I looked at her past voting records or personal records regarding the seat that she's going to be in,
Mhm.
and I was blown away. We have a lot in common. Like,
Mm.
I'm Republican and she's Democrat. Wait a second, I like you better than I like so and so who's a
Yeah.
Republican. You know what I mean? And it just
Yeah.
took that opening that door and being okay with saying, hey,
Mm.
whatever I'm feeling in here that I thought was right all this time was not right, or for me, it wasn't. So I did the research to make sure that what I was doing fit what I believed, and
Yeah.
that it's not red or blue. It's not, you know.
You keep mentioning doing the research, and I think that's so important because so many people, their research is great. They have an R, they have a D after their name. They're red, they're blue, and I personally am finding that the more that I dig into the issues or I look into how are people voting, these politicians seem to be focused on theatrics, right? You've got this almost obligatory outrage when the other side does something, but they work hand in hand with them. You see these candidates going at each other's throats when it's election year time, but then they're out as the elites at these expensive restaurants, rubbing shoulders with each other. And the parties are really the people and the politicians. Like that is the class there. It is not Republican, Democrat. But to me, it almost seems to be a way of keeping people preoccupied with the issues so that they can stay more in power. That's my opinion. That is my takeaway there. What do you think of that?
Well, I really think that politicians. I'm going to be real flat out honest. I think they're all liars. To an extent. I even the ones that I love dearly here, liars.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I got out of the political world too, was
Mm.
because I couldn't stand being a liar like
Yeah.
that. Looking in people's faces and saying one thing, but doing another. That brought me back to my using days,
Yeah.
when I was popping pills right and left, and I was saying whatever I had to say to appease the person at the moment, and that was it.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, and I
Mhm.
don't want to ever go back to that. So, if I'm ever going to be in politics, then people are going to just have to deal with my crazy truths. And if
Yeah.
it's not okay with them, then that's the way it is, because
Yeah.
I'm not. It's just it's hard. It's hard to discern what is right and wrong. And that's when I go back to that gut feeling that you have inside of you or that I have inside of me. I like to say it's my higher power or the Holy Spirit or, even my mom's voice saying, what are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
tough. It's tough.
it is. And you mentioned they're all a bunch of liars, and like insert the title of our show, like that we want to have those discussions that they're not having, the debates that they're not having, because Josh and I, we might not even agree for the same reasons, but a lot of times we'll find common ground in an area, or at least partial common ground, which is unexpected, unfortunately, in today's political age, I think, because it's like, well, how can you guys, as different as you are, find that common ground? And really, I think what's most interesting to me is that in the political sphere, you almost seem beholden to your funds, right? And the party is accountable to their donors, which more often than not, the chunks of money they get are not going to be from your everyday Americans donating grassroots most of the time. That's the exception, not the rule. Is usually conglomerates, and that's where we get into the lobbying and all of that. And I think, well, actually, I want to hear what you think. What do you think that has to do for someone who's, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, new to Congress like you, like, I want to do this, not this. How do you think that affects newcomers?
So for me, and I can only speak for myself, but I can tell you that when I was working for the state representative here, working with him, I volunteered,
Mm.
but I saw the massive amounts of dark money that came in to keep him out of office.
Mm.
There was close to, I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was close to $2 million that
Wow.
was donated just for him. And he
Wow.
is in a small district in northern Arizona. But
Mhm.
you know what? They didn't like him because he said exactly what he thought about BLM. He's an African American man himself, and he was the first Black Republican to be elected into our legislature. And he was getting his ass kicked. Sorry, language, but on, on Twitter, in person, everywhere.
Yeah.
But he said what he wanted to say. So back to me, I think you know, I would have a long shot if I ever wanted to run for any office whatsoever because
Yeah.
I say exactly what I feel, and that normally goes against the well-funded left side. And there's really I cannot switch over to full Democrat, and that's really I'm just going to be honest, and that's because of the abortion issue. Am I? And it's not that I want it to be abolished, no, but that's a whole different story. But that is, I don't think I have a great chance. I don't have a lot of money. All I
Mm.
can do is speak the truth, and I can tell you what I would want to bring to the table. And if that were to ever happen, then that would just have to be enough. So
I almost wonder if that would make it difficult for you to find a platform to run on, and by platform I mean Democrat, Republican, because neither side speaks the truth to the people. Like, I mean, you pick a person in Congress right now, they're more interested in saying the right thing, especially when election time. Like, we're coming up on midterms. The things that are being changed, the more moderate the policies are becoming, the less offensive, quote unquote, they try to become because they want to stay in power. And I think that makes it very difficult for the people to really know what's going on. And I think what that should be a strength for someone like you. Unfortunately, it seems like more often than not right now that makes them the target. The
well,
people who are
look at the big bad orange man,
yeah,
like Donald Trump. That man spoke whatever he felt, whatever was coming out. He didn't have a filter.
yeah,
Myself, I appreciate that. I have never felt more safe in my country than when President Trump was president.
yeah,
Now, with the president in office, which I respect the seat and I respect his seat in office, um, I don't feel safe.
Mm.
I would prefer somebody to be outright honest, like Donald Trump,
Mm.
saying it is what it is. This is how it is. You don't like it, then, well, I'll just beep it out there. You know how he is. I prefer that over bull.
Yeah.
I want to know the truth about what's going on.
In theory, and at least in that instance, you know why you dislike, right? So like you can point to that as opposed to the lip service that politicians often give us. So this is kind of related, but slightly off. Military veteran, tell us a little bit about that. I want to hear about your experiences in the military
All
and how they
right.
might have shaped
So
stuff.
in well, we all know what happened in 2001. So
Yep.
I waited a bit after I was in Oklahoma City, living there, and it was 2003. I decided I want to be a part of this. My father, he is a retired fireman. My great uncle John was on the USS Arizona when it got hit, and so was his twin
Wow.
brother.
Mm.
Uh, Unfortunately, his twin brother did not make it, and my uncle John, he passed away a few years back. My grandfather was in the army. It was huge. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to do that, and my mom told me, when I was a little girl, I drew a picture of a soldier, and I said, I want to be that. Yeah, gotta get chills. So that's what I did. I joined the Navy, and I took the ASVAB, and they said, well, you, how about medic? Would you like to be a hospital corpsman? Well, what is that? Basically a nurse. Well, guess what? I've got two aunts that are a nurse, and the healthcare field in our family is strong, and I wanted to do that. My father's an EMT, so I joined and I became a hospital corpsman. All was going well. I was in Chicago for a little over a year, and then I got my first duty station in Camp Pendleton, uh, and then it all just crumbled after that. So uh, I went home one day with a migraine, and my chief, who who knew all about my headaches before, he would always give me a shot of Toradol when I had one.
Okay.
But this day was worse. I went, he sent me home, and that evening I heard a knock on my bedroom door, or on my front door. And I looked out the window, and it was him. And so I opened the door, and he says, well, how are you feeling, Sutherland? I still have a headache, Chief. Well, I brought you some medication. So he pulled out the shot. I Toradol. I mean, that was just everything that he always did. Next thing I know, it was the middle of the night, and I was not in a position of where I wanted to be. He was taking advantage of me, and that really, really screwed me up. This
Yeah.
man that I would have laid my life down for, and I expected, that he would have done the same for me. It was just that camaraderie, and all of that just destroyed.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it really, really, really threw me for a loop. I ended up getting out of the military in 2005, and man, my life crumbled from
Wow.
then. And yeah, I got hooked on pills. The VA was giving me like 180 Klonopin a month, and they would be gone in 2 weeks. I mean, it was bad.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's when I got caught up with the criminal justice system here and in New Mexico. And that has been over a decade battle of cleaning up the wreckage of my past. But I made it out. I am stronger than ever. I mean, I still have my bad days, but I'm able to handle them and handle them in a healthy manner today.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's possible.
So
So
it's sounding then like the military and then the illegal opioids to help cope afterwards was what opened kind of that door for the addiction that you dealt with then.
well, it was, yeah, the benzodiazepine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Xanax, sister to Xanax is what it is.
Okay. I was gonna say
And,
I have no idea what that
yeah.
is. So.
So yeah, no, just that I feel the military was the catalyst to get me to where I am today. And I don't like to get stuck in my past about, oh my God, this happened. And then I get in a rabbit hole of poor me, but then I forget about where the hell I am today.
Yeah.
And I have more today than I thought I would ever have. because let's go to 2015 when all of my charges here in Arizona took place, all in 1 year. I have 3 DUIs and 2 aggravated assaults, and they were all on pills. And the assaults were assaults on medical professionals. That's when I went to the hospital, doctor shopping, trying to get medication. And God, my life was a train wreck. But those 3 DUIs that happened, 2 of them were dismissed and then refiled, one in 2017 and one in 2019. And it's just like God or whomever keeps reminding me, remember who you were? Don't let that ego get out of hand. Let me put you right back so you can remember the fight to get back out. Because, I do have to keep my ego in check. And if I don't, someone else does. I'd rather do it because when he does it, it's harder to get out.
Yeah. So for those that might not know, and I am one of those people, so I'm genuinely asking, what does the refiling do? Like, what does that mean exactly for you, for your record?
So I got a DUI in January 2015, one in June of 2015, and one of October of 2015. And I have to say this, so grateful that I never hurt anybody or myself during that. I couldn't live with myself. But like I said, they were dismissed. And I thought I had gotten away with it, if I'm going to be real honest. But 2017 came, and it was one of them was refiled. The June of 2015 was refiled, and I ended up going to prison January. I'm sorry, it was refiled 2016. I went to prison 2017, January 2017. I went 4 months for that DUI, and then after that, I started toying around with sobriety and get better, but still in and out.
Sure.
And then that October one was refiled my senior year when I was at Arizona State University. I was in my policy class, and I remember somebody had texted me, "Hey, we have you have a bunch of mail here from an attorney, a bunch of different attorneys that say, oh, you have a DUI, call us, we want to help you." And I'm like, wait a second, I haven't done that. It's been like 5 years. What are you talking about?
Nothing
so I
recent.
go home. No, I go home and I call one of the attorneys. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And the secretary said, well, it looks like your October of 2015 was refiled on you. And I literally, when I say literally hit the floor, I dropped because that was my third. And this is Arizona. Yeah. And if you don't know that policy for DUIs in Arizona, don't ever get one because it's not I mean, don't get one anyway, but it's
right.
Not,
that is the best strategy.
that's what I meant. But yes, so it really, I was looking at 10 to 15 years in prison.
Wow.
If I would have gone to trial and fought it, I would have lost. It would have been 10 to 15 years because it fell under that mandatory sentencing, which I hope we touch on eventually. And my policy teacher told me, you need to write a letter to legislation. And I said, you're ridiculous. Those guys, they don't care about me. They don't care about you. I don't even know what they do. You know what I mean? And she's like, just write the damn letter. It's really what she said. So I thought on it. I couldn't write it. And I woke up out of a dead sleep in the middle of the night, one night. And I was like, grabbed my laptop and I just pumped that thing out. And I got to tell you, that letter, well, obviously, that's how I ended up working for the state representative and meeting all of these people. He answered me along with one other politician. The other one, that's neither here nor there. But the one that I started working with, that letter is what got me there. So we do have a voice, as constituents. They do. There are some that care, and there are some that remember that they actually work for us. I think a lot of times they forget that. And so I'm so grateful to my ASU teacher for demanding me to write that letter, or else, I wouldn't be here. And when he backed me up, I saw myself in a different light, because I had
Sure.
been so down on myself for so many years of
Yeah.
what a mess up I had been, what a disappointment I had been to my family, and it didn't matter what they told me, because they're family, they have to say that, right?
Sure.
But when this politician who was like nationally known was standing behind me and saying, hey, you know, you're better than this. You've done all of this since 2015. You have worked on your sobriety. You're about to graduate Arizona State University. Like you turned your life around. Tell the story, damn it. So that's what
Yeah.
I did, and he gave me that platform to do that. I get chills, and I fought that case for actually. Give credit where credit's due. My ex-wife and we fought that
Mm.
case for 386 days. And I ended up signing a 6-month plea to the Department of Corrections here in
Okay.
Arizona. And a week before my sentencing, I get a call from my attorney, and he said, we heard from Maricopa County Attorney's Office. They reviewed all of your information, and they decided to lower the charge to a class 1 misdemeanor, no jail time. As long as I didn't pop positive on a test or whatever, or mess up probation.
Right.
I was like, and that was another time. Like when they refiled it, I hit the floor crying. When he called and told me that 386 days later, after I signed 6 months away in the Department of Corrections, that was over and no more, and I wasn't a felon again or had
Yeah.
another felony, like hit the floor crying again, and it's just amazing to me how I'm still standing. And that's something that I want to make clear to everybody, that it's hard, especially when you're alone. Like I'm in Arizona alone, but I am not alone. I have my recovery family. I have my family in New Mexico. I've got people, but there's a lot of people that don't. And for those who don't, I want to just let them know that if they come into recovery, or whenever they're able to come into recovery, they get to choose their family, and they're not
Mm.
going to be alone. I have met some of the most grounded, trustworthy people in recovery and prison, believe it or not, that are still my friends, to this
Mm.
day, that I trust with everything. And to say that out loud, it almost sounds just, but yeah, former addicts and formerly incarcerated are the best people to become friends with,
Mm.
as long as they're doing the next right thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you think that might have influenced maybe what you look for in candidates, or like maybe do you view the issue of incarceration, prison reform differently now that you've kind of been on that side?
I do. So here in Arizona, we have the mandatory sentencing, which
Okay.
it puts me under the same umbrella. It puts me under the same umbrella with somebody that killed somebody else. It could be a manslaughter charge that they're dealing with, and me with my third DUI. We're under that same sentencing umbrella.
Okay.
Now, am I saying that that's good or bad? That is a case by case basis, which
Sure.
I think a judge should be able to look at. Guess what? Here in Arizona, if there's mandatory sentencing, the judge has no discretion whatsoever.
Right.
So the judge, like, she has no say. And
Mm.
for me, I had the same judge, which is, I don't believe in coincidence. I had the same judge for all my cases in 2015. And then when both of those were refiled, 2016, 2019, same judge. What are the
Wow.
chances of that? Because
Yeah.
she did not have a say in any of it,
Yeah.
Like they wanted to put me away. My first plea was 3.5
Mm.
years. Guess what?
Wow.
I don't blame them. Like looking at my record on paper is not pretty. Like
Right.
come on now. But the thing is judicial discretion, and seeing who the person is today. Are they a danger to society? If they continue to live out in the community, is it going to be safe
Mm.
for everyone else? And that should be something that the judge has capability to look at. Um, just to put people under one umbrella and just sentence, not good, not good
Right.
whatsoever. And if I would have gone back to prison after all of the work that I had done, I will never say that I didn't deserve that, because I don't like to say
Sure.
that. It would not have been beneficial to myself, to the community, or anybody else for that matter, because I would have done 3.5 years if I would have done the full time or whatever. Sorry, but I most likely would have come out worse than I was before.
Sure.
Institutionalized, and I had just found my voice. I had just found my passion, and I was kicking ass and taking names, man. And then the court comes along and smacks me back. Wait a second.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
especially because they refiled, like you were getting your life on track, and then they just kind of
Yeah, they have
no.
7 years here to do that.
Wow. I had no idea that they had that long to kind of refile and go after them again. And I mean, well, I mean, you've got the recidivism, right? Like high rates of people who have been in prison, they're more likely to go back into prison, or they're more likely to commit crimes that get them back into prison, rather, because it changes you. And if everyone is just under the same category, as it seems the mandatory minimums create that category in that way, it can, like, I think we need to ask the broader question of how does that affect our goal, right? Because if the goal is repay your debt to society and then change the people so that they can be good citizens again, right? Like that's supposed to be the way that this works. Maybe
Supposed to.
maybe it's not
Supposed
doing
to
that.
be.
It's supposed to be.
Well, let me tell
Is
you,
it? No.
when I did that 4 months in the Department of Corrections here in Arizona,
Yep.
I was mandated to do like DUI classes and recovery
Sure.
classes while in there. And at that point, to be honest, I had done recovery and those types of classes for almost 9 years. I could have taught it myself.
Yep.
But the person that was doing it, he literally fell asleep every day in his office. He gave us like scissors and crowns, and like we got to just like, I mean, this is what corrections is right now. And and the mandatory sentence, and that's what I'm not kidding, and I'm not even like trying to lift that up at all. It is what it is. I
Sure.
know more about his dog. I learned more about his dog Lucy than I learned about recovery ever. So the one thing that I took from that I will never forget is I got stung by a bee while sitting in that class, and that right there like tells you he didn't do his damn job to help like with
Sure.
getting recovery. You know what I mean? There's just really corrections is sad,
Yeah.
and you know they have to keep their bed filled in order to keep that money coming in from the
Yep.
state. There's a level of I don't know exactly. I'm just guessing here. Let's say they need to keep their beds at 85% full. I just pulled that number. It's not, but they're going to get those filled so they can get that money coming in. And that's what it's about. It's always about lining somebody's pocket and it's never about taking care of the core problem. And that's the issue, the core problem. Where does that begin? Well, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, it's obviously not where we are now. There needs to be better programming in there. There needs to be, better court systems, different laws that aren't. Ours was like 1991 was when our statutes were enacted. And I'm like, man, I don't want to age myself, but that just feels like yesterday. But it wasn't. Things changed, but it's just things need to be looked at differently. And addiction is tough. Addiction is hard, and it changes the person that you are. I was not a good human on the outside, and I had lost my core. But I was able to find that again. And so, I don't want people to give up hope on if their loved ones or whomever they may know that has an addiction issue.
Right.
It's tough. You got, and then it's a balancing game of a tough love versus enabling. Like it is just, it's exhausting. And for my family, my aunt, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, like that kills me more now than to think about what I was doing in 2015, just popping pills only because I wanted to exist. Like I was
Right.
only existing in 2015. I didn't leave my apartment except to go get cigarettes, and the times I did, I got caught for a DUI. So, like,
Oh no.
I'm not kidding. That was the whole reason.
Mm,
But it's just I didn't want to wake up, and every day that I
right.
woke up, I was pissed off. And that is why I am such an advocate for people in substance abuse and with mental health issues. I don't even like calling it mental health issues.
Mm,
I struggle with depression, and I struggle with it every day. And the more that I'm vocal about it, the less stigma that is attached to it. And
yeah.
the less people, I'm tired of feeling bad about it. I'm tired of being
Sure.
embarrassed because I wake up in the morning and I'm just so sad. But if I talk about it, like I'm talking with you and everybody else watching, I'm okay. I
Mm,
really am okay. Like
yeah.
it takes getting out of this takes a village. So uh, just know that your village is waiting if you're just looking in the right spots. And
Yeah.
God, I have to tell that representative who helped me, because he's the one that lifted me up and gave me
Yeah.
that boost of power. Like he goes, "Did you forget who you were?" And I remember he said that. He said, I feel like somebody knocked you down a long time ago and you believed everything that they said.
Mm,
And I thought about that for a minute, and I was like, he's right.
yeah. Well, Angela made this comment: validation by people you respect makes you reevaluate the way you believe about yourself. I think that's a really good point, and like that kind of nicely complements what you're saying here. I think that in your case, it was someone in a position of power who was able to not only support you, but like actually back you with legitimate power in that instance. And I think that's I guess I'm surprised as we talk about this that this is not a larger issue when people are running on platforms. Like I feel like we always go to like maybe 2 to 3 major issues for candidates, and then they forget about stuff like this, or they choose not to. You know what? They're politicians. I'm going to attribute malice. They just choose. It's not important. It's not on their radar because that would be caring a little too much about us.
Right. But I got to give, like I said, credit where credit is due. I work for Representative Walt Blackman, and he
Yep.
still stands firmly on everything that he stood firmly on before. And for that not to change with the direction of the wind, of which way that blows, that is huge. And
Yeah.
I
Huge.
if I was in his district, I'd vote for him in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. So and same thing for the person I'm gonna vote for, the Democrat.
Yep.
This person traveled all around Arizona restoring people's rights for marijuana charges for
Mm.
free on our own money, like all over
Wow.
Arizona, doing this for people. And I'm getting chills again. It's
Yeah.
just it's things like that. Action is that's a verb. Do you do?
Yeah.
If you're preaching it, do it.
Yeah.
Representative Blackman is a huge criminal justice reform advocate, and that's what he really works towards in the legislature here in Arizona. And when he he called me after receiving my letter, I was just like, I remember speaking to him for the first time. I was on our roof, my old house, hanging Christmas lights and listening to Sound of Silence while hanging Christmas lights.
Great song.
Yeah, well, anyways, that probably tells you where my head was at the time. But anyways, he's like, "Hey, this is Representative Walt Blackman." And I was like on the roof, what the really? And I would love to meet you. I'd love to meet your wife. And he's like, wait a second, you're a Republican. You want to meet my wife too? Hang on a second. I have gotten more love, and which I'm blown away by, more love from the conservative community. Don't get me wrong, I've gotten plenty of hate too from them.
Sure.
But I've gotten less hate and more love from them than I have any other side. But I'll take the love wherever I can get it.
Well, and there's plenty of bad apples on both sides, but I really think that
Sure.
the reason that the conservative party is going to be more accepting is because usually they value individualism, and they don't place people into these boxes where they can, when they don't conform, they can't escape from that, depending on what's convenient to them in that election cycle. They view you as an individual above all else, and like, if we can agree on core values like individualism, like small government, like supporting the individuals who are good, like you said, credit where credit is due to these individuals who supported you, who remember that they're responsible to us, you specifically in this instance, then like that's a huge overlap on what's important to them.
It really is. I mean, that really that could have like made or broke my decision on. Let's be honest here. When I first had that case refiled, I was thinking of ways to off myself, and I'm not kidding. Like, I was, how can I do this in a respectful order? How am I going to go to heaven if I do that? And it was like I was just fighting internally because I didn't want to
Wow.
live. I didn't want to do 10 to 15 years in prison. It was just I felt like such a disappointment for so long. And he was the one, and my family too. But again, family's family, and if you have a good one like I do, you're used to them saying, "We love you. You're better. You can do this." But when
Right.
someone else says it, especially in the position he was in, he brought me out of that. And I don't even think he knew it at the time,
Wow.
and I will never, ever forget that. So
That's awesome
that was huge.
that he did that. Wow. I
Yeah.
think there's one piece that we haven't touched on yet to kind of assembling the puzzle of your past for our viewers, and that is your involvement with social work. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. What did that look like? What got you into that?
So it's, my entire life has been, it's been good, but there has been some big bumps in the road from
Sure.
a young age that were not my fault. Through middle school, not my fault. High school again, and then my decisions after that. I was my biggest enemy from that point on. I caused all the destruction from then on out. I was able to I overdosed and was on a ventilator for like a couple of days, 3 days in New Mexico on Cinco de Mayo of 2010. And when that happened, prior to that, I was a corrections officer in New Mexico, and I had gotten my first DUI there, and on pills. So I had to resign, and I remember calling my mom and telling her, "Mom, I'm going to go on a bender for a while," and that was pop a bunch of pills, and you'll hear from me later because I don't want to be a jerk.
Wow.
Next thing she got was a phone call from I don't know who. Your daughter is in the ER and on a ventilator. I don't know if she's going to make it. So my family, they all got together. They figured out a rehab here in Arizona for me. My aunt and grandma flew me out here, and I was able to start learning. And I didn't know that's what I was doing then, but I today mirror the woman, let's say at the halfway house, that I still call my mother. I love to mirror what she does for people. And she still to this day builds me up all the time. She calls me Nicole. That's my middle name. She'll be like, "Nicole, you are full of crap right now. You better think about what you're saying. And is it real? Is it, you know what I mean?" And so like, I'm thinking, okay, so I always felt that was expected of me to go to college, and I wanted to do it to make everybody else proud of me. I really didn't care, to be honest.
Sure.
Like I could do vocational work. I go mow a yard. I like to be outside, whatever. But I wanted people to be proud of me after all of this time of messing up and going to jail and prison, and that I went to school. And I'm like, what am I good at? Well, I could teach the recovery curriculum with my eyes closed. Like I've lived it for the last 10 years. So
Yeah.
and I like to help people, and I love, talking to people. I'm good at it. So I went into social work, and like I said, I was in my senior year when that had been refiled. I was in my internships for social work, about to graduate. And when that happened, it derailed me.
Mm.
So I wasn't able to give my internships, the clients of my interns, the attention that was deserved. So I switched to community advocacy and social policy, which
Okay.
is the exact same coursework minus the internships, pretty much.
Sure.
So I graduated with my degree in that. I graduated magna cum laude, and I start my MSW, I hope, in the fall for my master's in social work. And after that is when I'll be able to go and listen. I don't want to do face-to-face therapy. I can't handle it
Sure.
because my bedside manner sucks. I'll be like, it's like trying to lie to the liar before.
Sure.
You know? Like I played all those games. Knock it off and just do what you're supposed to do. So I want to be
Right.
more on a macro level, more political, more legislative policy, because that's where it begins to me. Recovery begins outward.
Yeah.
On a bigger scope for everybody. So yes, Angela, I did remember who I was. Right?
Know yourself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know what works for you. I'd like to just bring this back now to the person over party. And I guess one question I'd like to ask is you brought this up on Saturday when we had our debate. Why do you believe that? Like what fuels your need to research candidates and not just vote straight ticket now?
Learning more about people and why they are the way that they are when I was in the School of Social Work really opened my eyes. And I mean, I was just like a country jerk. Like, oh, you're not a Christian, you're Catholic, I don't want to mess with you. Oh, you like abortion, I don't want to mess with you. You know what I mean? I didn't care enough to learn about why. I didn't know.
Yeah.
About why they are. I didn't know anything about generational trauma. I didn't know anything about conditioning. I had no idea. But then once I learned about why are people thinking the way that they do, why is so and so running and using this platform? Okay, so I was more open to learning and growing. And if that meant changing, I will never change parties. I am nowhere. I am moderate now, and I will never be one or the other. But it's just that opening your heart to understanding of why people believe the things that they do. And then if you can speak to them and them understand and want to learn and grow themselves in a way that is respectful, to maybe have them, like, let's take me or vote for me. Well, why would you? Well, because I understand you. I know why you believe this, but let me help you. This is what we can do. So you don't have to go back on your generational trauma and listen to what your mom had told you all those years, because that's what was true for her. And
Right.
I'm not minimizing that, but what's true for us today is not true a generation ago, and that is huge. And that's for me too. Like I believed so many things that I don't believe now anymore. I don't want to get it. Mom's watching, so.
Well, I think there's the way you're raised, the experiences you have, but particularly the way that you're raised, those values usually will influence what you believe. They can be religious values, they can be political values, but the way you're raised heavily influences that. Now, there are people who buy into them. There are people who push back once they reach adulthood. But they are a large part of our formative years as children. And that's important to understand. But what I cannot respect in someone is when the only reason they vote a particular way is because their parents voted that way, right? Like I tend to agree with my parents on religious beliefs, political beliefs, but that's because they are now my own values, right? And I've decided that is what I believe, and that's probably more often the case than not, because that's the way that you're raised, and it does heavily influence you. But to me, like you were kind of touching on this, I think it's someone that I don't respect when they vote if the only reason they're voting a specific way is just because of the party, right? They have a specific letter after the name, or just because that's the way their parents vote and they don't do that research for themselves.
So what really opened my eyes was this last election with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And I heard so many people say, I'm not voting for Trump. I hate Trump. So I'll just vote for Biden.
Right.
Do I need to say more? Or should I go on about gas prices and whatever? But that was not okay. Like, first of all, and this is my own personal opinion, and I'm not, again, I respect the seat, and I respect President Biden. I'll tell you what, I don't respect his wife. Like, that woman, to allow him to like wander around aimlessly and just, that is not what a wife is supposed to do. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. That is when my eyes were opened to just voting because you didn't like if I were to just vote Republican because I don't like a Democrat, just because they have that D behind their name, but I don't know anything about them. Like,
Right.
that makes no sense. I mean, I voted for Joe Arpaio, for God's sake, and that was even after my stay in his fine establishment. I was so blinded by that only red or blue that I still voted for that man to go in there, and
Right.
it's exhausting. I mean, it's like politics and voting, and it's hard work to even vote. It should be hard work because guess what? This is your life. And if you're not doing the research and you're not checking out your candidates, what they have voted for in the past, if they were in office before, what were their past actions? How did they behave? That's huge. If you didn't do that, I don't want to hear you complain about it later on. You don't have any right to complain about it.
Yeah.
So, I have my own moral things that I will never vote for. And, a lot of those are, I discussed a little bit, just abortion. There's some things I will not bend my morals on and I will not hold. And that's okay. There are some offices such as sheriff or county attorney that I believe do not even need to be party specific. And that is why, they don't, but unfortunately they are.
Yeah.
And that is why, I'm comfortable voting the way I vote today.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that I feel like just goes back to categories, and we are always placing people in categories. The sheriff gets placed in a category based off of maybe their views off of prison reform or the way that they approach specific things, or maybe even the way that like the candidate personally votes, which is very interesting to me. Like you mentioned, being sheriff doesn't have to be party specific, but like even for you, there's the assumption she's lesbian, therefore she must be not conservative, must be on the left. And I feel like you're kind of a walking middle finger to those boxes of like this expectation that you have to be conformative, might be the word.
I am so glad that you see me that way because that's exactly how I try to put myself out there. Like if you put me in that box of, you're a Democrat, you are far left. Listen, wrong. No, I am not. Right. Now, do I disrespect the Democratic Party? No. But do I disrespect those far left that are burning down buildings and towns and, all that? Yeah, I absolutely don't have any respect for them. Just like I don't have respect for those that broke into the Capitol on January 6th.
Right.
I mean, it's common sense. Where the heck did all that go?
It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like just because you are against one doesn't mean you're automatically the other. I find it very interesting how the assumption is just, okay, well, you disagree with this, therefore you're this, right? Like you disagree with BLM burning cities and rioting, therefore you're a Trump supporter, right? Like there's many steps for people between the two, and there's almost this false dichotomy that's created. I guess my next question then would be, let me lay this down first. Usually the assumption is that conservatives are anti-LGBTQ, that they're not accepting of them, and therefore you're kind of voting against your own interest as a member of the LGBTQ community. How did you reconcile that? What are your thoughts to that?
So, like I said, I have received more love, especially within the last 3 years, more love from the Conservative Party, Republican Party, and regarding my sexuality, and more hate from the left. the all-inclusive left, because I was step for step with a Republican lawmaker here, because that's where my morals and values are, you know. And we spoke about this before, and the truth be told, like, I was groomed at an early age. I still don't know. Like, that's why I've been alone and single for almost 2 years. And I'm doing that so I can figure myself out and discern within myself, not what I was brought up believing, not what I'm hearing from the right or left, but what's in here. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That year or two, or
Yeah.
2 years alone is like, it's tough. Like I said, I've gotten more love from the
Right.
conservative party. Now, if you would have taken it back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, no.
Yeah.
It was, I go to a Baptist church, and there was a table with when President Obama was signing marriage into law. And
Right.
I was home on leave, and sorry, Mom, but it was true. I go to the church, and they're like, aren't you going to sign this? No, I'm not. What I am going to do is I'm going to go home now. So,
Right.
and that's really when I left church, and I have not been back. And that's the difference between religion and spirituality. I will never lose my moral compass. I know what it is. Now, I don't need all of that nonsense from the congregation to tell me what's right and what's wrong. I can discern it myself. So it's just learning to be okay with yourself and figuring things out, man. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
So not checking those boxes, not conforming to she's lesbian, therefore she must be in lockstep with whatever left agenda they want. You push back against that, walk your middle finger to that. My question for you then is, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the hatred you've received from people for your views that you have, the pushback that you give? Paint us a picture there, because I know it's been rough.
So yeah, it still is. Like, I get it all over TikTok. I'll tell you, I made my TikTok account over Christmas, or I believe somewhere Thanksgiving
Okay.
or Christmas. And it just, like, I went to sleep, and then it just kind of blew up. It was really weird. But
Yeah.
I get a lot of hate on there, and I love it when they throw Bible verses at me, because you don't want to do that with me, because first of all, I know it quite well, and if I don't know it, guess what? My mom knows it even better. So I've gotten death threats on my family. My ex-wife, she was threatened, and I felt very unsafe. I felt more unsafe when I was married. I'm good. I've dealt with feeling uncomfortable my entire life. So,
Sure.
I'm okay with that. But when you bring other people,
Right.
you're gonna get the I'm not a mom, but you're gonna get the mama bear effect. So
Right.
it's been really hard, and my feelings. I do have really soft feelings, and I have a very soft heart, and I just have to put on my thick skin and remember what I said. Why do they think this? Where did they come from?
Right.
Danielle, before you open your mouth and are a jerk, why are they where they are today? And then I'm able to reply with grace, even though I'm biting my tongue sometimes. I'm like, but it's been hard. It's been hard. I feel more comfortable in my own skin than I ever have, but it's
That's
still
good.
not comfortable. It's still not comfortable.
Right.
Especially when I believe the political way that I believe, and then I still am not sure about things regarding my sexuality. Like, it's just like I feel like a walking contradiction. But you know what? I have grown to love that about myself, and I'm able to speak my story. And
Yep.
when I'm not ashamed. Like, this is what I'm going through, and if it helps you, that's awesome. Like, that is my one goal. That I just hope that things that I say on here or on TikTok, just about keep pushing on, and don't conform and don't mold. If you feel it strongly in here, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
I just love the woman that I have grown to be, and it feels good.
I think that underscores the importance of nuance, right? Like, even the fact that you're not in lockstep I'm not in lockstep. Like more people are not in lockstep with the party that they've potentially been voting for. I think today more than ever, because if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that is their research, then they're realizing that like these people who are politicians are supposed to be servants, public servants. They work for us, which means that we should be holding them accountable. When if we put them in office, that should mean we agree with at least most of what they do. You're probably not going to get 100%, but even if I vote for that candidate, that doesn't mean I endorse the bad things that they do, or the bad decisions that they make, or the human error that comes in. It means that as a representative, I think that in general, they represent my interests, so I vote for them. And I think that we touched on this a few weeks ago. I think it was um, it was with Luigi from the Agree to Disagree show. One of the problems that I think we're seeing in today's political climate is that people wrap so much of their identity into their political identity, right? So instead of saying, I am voting for this particular person and they align with this party because I think they serve my interests, it's okay, well, now I have to label you as that means you're hardcore Republican, hardcore Democrat, far left. You get enough of those policies, maybe we can find a pattern and say, all right, you tend to vote with this party. But I feel like people just are put into these boxes, and then when you step out of that box, then you receive the hate that you just talked about.
Well, yeah, because I'm supposed to, by the way I look and the people that are in my life or used to be in my life, ex-wife, whatever, that I'm supposed to think a certain way because I sleep with a certain person.
Yeah.
How does that go together? Like,
Yeah.
has nothing to, it's not anybody's business what goes on behind closed doors. Like, my thoughts and my heart and my moral compass belong to me. And there is nobody gets to put that in a box. I don't get to put I don't get to put you anywhere. Like, you're a white cis male Trump, like, you know what I mean? I don't know that, but the way you look, I mean, it's
assuming, yeah.
I'm assuming, yes. And
yep.
You can't do that because
right.
I will prove you keep assuming about me, people, I will always prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a walking contradiction to you people, not me. Like, I get me. Stop putting me in boxes, and then I won't be.
Well, why don't we, as we kind of wrap this up, I want to ask you some like future predictions, and this is calling for you to speculate. But I guess number one, where do you think the current parties are going, or what do you think the fallout is post 2020 election? Like, I think to me, one of the corrections seems to be fewer people are aligning themselves with a specific party. We're seeing a little bit more nuance when people are allowed to have the conversations we're having. Then we find that we have more overlap. That's one thing I think. But I'm curious if there's anything you might add to that as far as how the parties or politics as a game might be shifting.
I think it's all going straight to hell, if you want to be honest. If we keep going on the same road that we're going on, then, I mean, okay, now, just seriously speaking, I gotta be honest. As much as Donald Trump bugs the crap out of me when he opens his mouth, like, I still felt more safe. Our economy was so much better. All of our unemployment rates, everything was much better,
Yeah.
The man would just keep his mouth shut. I hope that's where we go 2024, unless there's a better candidate. Again, I'll do all my research, and as of now, if he runs in 2024, I'll vote for that. But if, throw somebody else in there that I've never heard of, and I will research, and if I agree and my morals are not bent or swayed from, then I'll vote for them too, even if they're Democrats, what I mean. So it's just, I don't know where it's going. All I know is what I'm going to be doing, whichever directions it goes.
Sure.
I'm going to stand firm in what I believe. I won't bend, and I will continue to do the work to make sure that I vote for the right person to be in office. And I take my voting seriously, more serious now that I have my civil rights back after not having them since 2020. And
wow.
Yeah, so
it's a long time.
It is,
That's a long time. 2 years now.
I hated it.
Wow.
But I have them back now, and I'm ready. Like I said, I'm not going to bend. I will not bend my moral compass. I will not sway from what I believe the truth is. And if that's Republican or Democrat, which normally, unless it's sheriff or county attorney or something like that, if they're a lawmaker, I tend to go Republican. But I still think they need a lot of help too. It's just reminding them that they work for us and that they need to listen to us, and a lot of times they don't. It's all about what they want and what lines their pocket, and that's not why the hell they're there. So it's just, if you want to make a difference and you want them to hear you, you can look up your legislation online. Find out who your legislator is in your district. Find out who your senator is. You can request to speak at the legislator. I've done it, and do it. They hear you when you're there. The louder you are, the more they have to listen. And if you're just quiet and you're complaining to your friends and family about the way the world is right now, all you're doing is just making more noise. You're not helping. Get out there, make noise. And I'm not talking about burning buildings, people. So I'm talking about going to your legislator, sitting in those boring rooms and hearing them argue like adult children, and getting up there and speaking about what you believe the truth is, just like I did about criminal justice reform and how we don't all fit in one box. And then, I was proud to stand up there and we cannot do this anymore. You can do that too. Get out there, look it up, go to your state legislator, state Senate website, find out who those people are, write them, go to your office during the meetings and get busy. Yeah. Nothing's going to change if you're going to stay there. Stay stagnant, nothing changes.
Yeah. So that tees us up very nicely for my last two questions. So the first of those is, what advice would you give our listeners? Anything you want to add to what you just said, other than vote and contact your representatives? Don't complain to the people around you. Complain to people who can make a difference and hold them accountable. Any other advice you want to leave our listeners with?
When I would argue with people regarding certain, let's say the left, what they believed and what they thought I should believe, and I was just spewing nonsense that was coming from the way I grew up. I had no education or anything to back it up. That was
right.
Peer review, nothing like that. It was just BS, hearsay. Be informed. Inform yourself. Have a valid argument of why, not just the emotion, because once you bring emotion in, that's it.
Yeah.
Talk about factual basis. Okay, well, criminal justice, we have 85% of our beds filled. This costs us this amount of money every year. You as taxpayers are responsible for that. You want to continue paying, you know what I mean? Just back yourself up with the numbers that are true and not just emotion, because nobody cares about what you feel.
Yeah. This is
it's true. So
Angela asks, is there advice to young people who feel powerless in abusive situations? It's very specific, and I think that's a very good question.
I wish I would have listened to my mom. She, I get a little emotional here. When my elementary school principal and his wife had taken advantage of me, and she called the police, and the police came, and I lied, and I knew I was lying, and I knew I was wrong, but I just wanted to be loved by everyone, Always listen to your gut. And if you feel uncomfortable or you feel something's wrong, tell somebody. It's okay to tell somebody. That's a tough one. It really is. But all I can say is I wish I would have listened to the people that I loved and done the right thing then. Like I said, I was young. I was a kid. It's tough when you're a kid. Find somebody that you trust, and I would say a school representative. They are mandated reporters. They are mandated to report anything that seems suspicious. If we're talking about child abuse, whether it be physical or sexual or whatever. Yes, be brave, Angela. You have to, because I wasn't brave when I was young, and that molded my path. And that was a long exhausting for not only myself, but for my family path. And you have to be brave and say something. It's okay. You did nothing wrong. It's not you. Remember that. You know?
Yeah. Oh,
I carried that for a long time. This was my fault. They did this. I deserved it. It was never. No, right. Danielle, it's not your fault. So I think it's important if you feel that you come across a child that is in an abusive whatever, just let them know it's not their fault. Gain their trust and get them to talk to you and do the right thing by them. Because if you don't, then you're just gonna send them off, on the wrong way. So sorry, it's a little touchy, little feely for me.
But it's necessary, and your experience here speaks to that. So no, that was a great answer. Thank you. Is there anything as we wrap up here? Any final thoughts you want to give?
Again, I don't know what it's really like to be. Let's say I didn't have the family that I have. Is it a perfect family? No, but it's a wonderful family, and they love me. Now I know a lot of people in recovery or with mental health issues don't have that. Again, get into the recovery in your state. Go to meetings. I'm not a huge person of a 12-step person, but guess what? That's where I met my family, right. And they're still my friends here. And you can pick your family today. You're not alone. You're never alone. You just go to the right places, because I felt so alone here. Like I said, I was just existing until I wasn't. But I had people pushing me out of there. You can find that too, even if they're not blood related. That's even better because you're not stuck with them forever. Just kidding, Mom. But right. You're just never alone.
Yeah.
Life's hard, man. Hard.
It is.
You can always find me on TikTok, and I do my very best to reply to people, especially when they're reaching out to me with questions like that. I do my very best to reply and be there for people.
Yeah.
We all need people. So, and that's what we're all here for. Forget red and blue. We all need to help each other. When we say it takes a village, not a red and blue village, let's all come together and help each other for once.
Yeah. What is your TikTok that they can follow and that they can message you on? Since you brought that up.
Navy Doc 1981.
Navy Doc 1981. That will be linked in the description below. So follow at Navy Doc 1981 on TikTok. Also follow Between the Liars. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. You can watch our lives every Saturday and sometimes the bonus episodes like this through our YouTube, through our Twitch, and through our Facebook live page. So if you want to talk with us before the show and after the show in our private Discord, you can look into the memberships. Those will also be linked below. That helps support the show, helps us be able to keep streaming. Danielle, thank you so much for sharing your story, for giving your insight. This was super informative, really solidified person over party. So
thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And, absolutely.
I'm here. So.
All right.
I ain't going nowhere.
That is going to be it for today. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, Google Podcasts. Follow us on our social medias to stay updated so you get the bonus content like this with Danielle and our other great guests. And if you enjoy this show, just give us a 5-star review. Help push us. I want to be at the top of those charts. So help get Danielle's word out there. Help get the show out there. I'm sure you find yourself somewhere between the liars. Goodbye for now.
Bye, guys.